In 1990, the Japanese company NHK gave the world a very rare glimpse into high definition with their coverage of the FIFA World Cup in Italy. This wasn't their first HDTV rodeo, okay? They also did the same with the Los Angeles Olympics in 1984, but technology by 1990 was way better, and in the case of the Olympics, they only partly covered some stuff. Here, it was the whole thing. They had to work with RAI, the Italian state broadcaster, which designed custom encoders that won awards. This is one of the hardest picks I've ever seen. It mugs every Silicon Valley office. Matches would be shot in Italy and then live broadcast to a satellite, with the signal being received in Japan, Spain, and also Italy, where everything was being shot. When it comes to Spain and Italy, big venues were set up so that people could just go there and watch the match in HD, which compared to any standard TV broadcast probably felt like the future. Venues were also set up in Japan, but just like with cat eyes, Japan was already living in the future. So since the previous year, in 1989, you could already watch an experimental BS HDTV channel if you had a lot of money to buy everything. And after some digging, I did find confirmation that, according to Hiroshi Akiyama, he and Okudera, his colleague, were covering the whole Italian 90 World Cup, and it was broadcast in its entirety on the trial BS High Vision channel. So by 1990, Japan was already there. Italy and Europe designed some of the technology to make this work. How long did it take for HDTV to be a thing in the West? Well, in the case of the US, 1998, for the very first public HD broadcast, which was the launch of the Space Shuttle Discovery and John Glenn's return to space. Okay, what about Europe? I would have expected them to get there first, considering they already had the technology in 1990. How long did we have to wait? Oh no. Oh no. 2004 for the very first public HDTV broadcast in Europe, and Italy, which I want to stress designed HDTV encoders in 1990, got it in 2006, fittingly broadcasting another World Cup, one that they'll win. So, another story, right? Every country around the world slowly got HDTVs, and everyone was so happy to go from this directly to this. Except that didn't happen. The problem with phasing out CRTs was that we used to make this on our own, for the most part. Believe it or not, Europe, before I was born, used to manufacture stuff. But here's the thing, they're incredibly complex to build, they can literally implode if you look at them wrong. So when flat screen TVs became viable for the wider consumer market, everyone jumped on them. And I'm talking about the manufacturers, okay? They were getting 3 wins at once. Number 1, a better technology so they could sell them to consumers as the future. Number 2, they were so easy to build compared to CRTs. Number 3, they could have the Asians build them and ship them out because they were so much lighter. They tried to make this seem gradual in Europe, but starting in 2004, when 89% of TVs sold in Europe were CRTs, in a bunch of years, pretty much every single factory closed. I want to zoom in into a very specific time period now, 06-10. These 4 years, HDTV-wise, are weird. Here's the thing, compared to the US or Asia, even though by 06 HD was very mainstream, you got Simpsons episodes about Homer becoming obsessed with getting one, most Europeans did not see the need to change their TV. The old ones were working, why spend this amount of money, which compared to CRT TVs was insanely high, when you could keep your existing TV or buy some other new CRTs since they were now cheaper than ever. Price was the main problem. Let's say you don't want to shell out for an HD TV, okay? You don't need high definition. What does that mean? I am going insane! If I say that a TV is HD ready, you might reasonably think that what I'm saying is that it supports the standard HD resolution, 1280 by 720. But actually, according to the official specification, the requirement only applies to the 720 vertical lines. So, if you make a TV, and this is going to sound like a joke, but my uncle had this is why I'm talking about this, 42 inches. 1024 by 768, which is a 4:3 aspect ratio, right? If you make that a widescreen TV, stretching the pixels, which was a thing that was really done, and you provide at least one input capable of accepting and displaying HD signals, that TV is technically HD ready. These were everywhere. Most plasma TVs from back then are like this, and not only that, but just buying a TV back then was super sketchy. There were no real enforcing mechanisms, and you got some 480p TVs with an HDMI input sold as HD, even though it's literally standard resolution. This was mostly a seller problem though. Manufacturers would never get caught making a rookie mistake like this. They would call these TVs EDTV or Enhanced Definition TV, which means anything that can display standard resolution in progressive scan. That's a very low bar to clear. Now, what happens when you take this concept of like any TV that is technically more modern than a CRT? I wouldn't say better because that's arguable. And you apply that to the max. What's the minimal viable product you can ship like that? Philips, same company that made this, by the way, actually had an answer, a very weird one. Okay, so I'm reading directly from the product page here. Here is an LCD TV that not only enhances the decor of your home with its European styling and slim design, but also provides a great audiovisual experience with crystal clear and virtual Dolby surround. We are talking about an enhanced definition 480p display. Yeah, I guess you're stretching that definition a bit much. Pun not intended. This is like peak grandma TV. This is the kind of TV your grandma buys and says, I bought one of those two fancy flat screen televisions. And you go, why didn't you ask for a tip first? Except for like seniors. Who the hell would buy something like that? Yeah, that would be me. Now, I didn't buy this when it came out. That would be stupid. I got it used for 15 euros and it came in like terrible conditions. I had to tape it together. And the reason I'm making a video on it is that what used to be one of the worst deals ever, a borderline scam according to some critics, has in today's era of rarer and rarer CRTs and people having less living space because everything sucks, turned into a potentially great deal for retro gaming. A native panel resolution of 640 by 480 and DVI means that if you have a system that can output 480p, like, I don't know, the Dreamcast, the Wii, the Xbox, using either a digital or analog signal, it doesn't matter because this thing can take both, you can get native 480p, crispy, sharp, beautiful gaming without any scaling. And it looks amazing. Now, of course, there are some caveats. It's not a perfect TV. For some stuff, you might want a CRT. However, I think this is so good, a lot of you are going to consider it. And I'm not talking specifically about this Philips TV, okay? It's not even sold in America, I think. I'm talking about 480p EDTVs that went from misleading junk to maybe gems. So yeah, let's talk about this. But first, this video is sponsored by boot.dev. I've always been a tinkerer, but due to a serious problem with my attention span, I'm able to do stuff like code in Python or move around a Linux distro just fine, preparing for the year of Linux desktop. But at the same time, even though I'm able to do complex stuff, because I googled it once and I had to think about it and so I remember it forever, I end up sometimes not knowing very basic stuff, simply because it never came up and I never learned how to do it. I'm not the kind of person to sit through tutorials for hours, so turns out the solution was boot.dev. I was actually completing the course about Linux and I'm not scared of using the terminal anymore. I'm using TUIs now to listen to music sometimes because it's faster. And I would have never thought to do it like 1 year ago, but now I can do it. And boot.dev is doing this by turning learning into a gaming experience. You have XPs, you are learning by doing, and it's tricking your brain into thinking this is a game, but you're actually learning real skills. You're putting your brain to work, which is, for obvious reasons, more important than ever now. So you can use code FEMI to get 25% off your first payment on boot.dev. It's like brain age, but it actually helps you find a job instead of like doing sudokus forever. The sponsor segment is now over. So this whole video's idea is based upon this article by Gingerbread Man. He's the reason why I have this TV. He made a list of a lot of EDTVs that specifically have the requirements we want, which are preferably a native 640 by 480 resolution and /or a good scaler. The TV that I have here is a Philips 20PF4121. I don't think this one was specifically ever sold in the US, but don't worry, okay? The same combo of panel and scaler, which is like what we need, was used on other TVs like Toshiba, sold all around the world. And the good thing is that, unlike PVMs, people haven't really digged into this. So people are not scalping this and selling them for insane prices yet. I hope that doesn't happen after this video, but I can't control the market. So for the rest of the video, I'll talk about my Philips, but what I'm saying here is going to apply to all of these TVs if they have the same panel and same scaler. And linked in this article, there's a spreadsheet with several models already, so you could get started from there. In order to truly EDTV max, we gotta get the cleanest signal possible from the source, okay? So no composite, it's gonna look like okay, no, actually it looks pretty good. I was expecting my shoddily composite modified Famicom to look like crap, but the scaler is actually good, but it's still not what I'm talking about, okay? We need to do one-to-one pixel mapping. We have DVI, which means we can input both analog signal and digital signal. Basically, if we have VGA, like, you know, from the last console Sega ever made, we can buy a cheap VGA cable from Amazon, get this passive adapter right here. The audio thingy comes with the cable, but I lost it. Tutorial how to connect the TV to the Dreamcast. So basically you use the DVI adapter for video, the double RCA for audio. I have this weird one, but it's the same. And you're done. Other consoles, if it's like component or stuff like that, it's not hard, but you need a passive adapter and it can be messy. We'll get to it later, okay? For now, just know that some assembly might be required. But when it comes to the Dreamcast, we're done. We turn on the console and it looks like this. It looks sharp as hell. Unlike connecting this cable to a modern TV, there is no scaling or processing here. The pixels are mapped 1-to-1 to what's on screen. And it looks beautiful. Here's the same Dreamcast playing the same games on the same TV using VGA and SCART, which is RGB. There is simply no comparison here. VGA is perfect. It's mapping every pixel 1-to-1. It looks insanely sharp. If you're using my TV or a similar one, you might need the remote control because in my case, it's needed to both select the right input, which is PC, that's the input without any scaling. And also when you're using VGA like now with an adapter, you need to let your TV auto-adjust to the specific signal, trying to avoid anything getting cropped out of your visible frame. But that's it. That's all you have to do. After that, you can simply enjoy what I think is one of the best ways to play any native 480p games, period. What about digital signals though? Well, as long as you have anything that can do 480p over HDMI, you just get one of these and you are set. What you're seeing here specifically is my Mr. FPGA connected using HDMI, and it just looks insanely good. I am trying N64 and PS1 games on here right now. I set the N64 core to clean HDMI and it's the sharpest N64 footage I've ever seen. Now, the camera does not really convey how this looks IRL. My camera's making the colors look washed out for some reason, even though in real life, unless you're watching the TV from the side, the colors actually look okay. This iPhone clip right here actually portrays the colors better so you can see how they look in real life, and it's okay. It's not an OLED, but it's okay. VGA is brilliant. But native HDMI, I'm not talking about those goddamn boxes, is even better because you're giving your TV the best signal you can possibly get. It is purely digital, you don't need to adjust anything, it just works. And in fact, something that I love doing with this monitor is having it connected to my main PC as a secondary monitor specifically to run emulators, because you don't need to upscale anything, use DLSS 6.7 or weird texture packs. You can just give it 480p, native 480p, and it looks good. And of course, we live in the future, so you can find a lot of mods for consoles, even older ones, that can make them output native 480p over HDMI. Just make sure it's really native and not like doing some internal conversion from component, because even though I have to praise the built-in scaler of this TV, because when I was testing the RGB input using Artemio's 240p suit on Dreamcast, it was one of the few TVs that can actually switch on the fly from 240i to 240p, which is not that common in modern TVs. The native 480p PC mode, the very core of this video, is very picky. So it is now time to talk about the faults, and I've had this TV for more than a year now, almost two, time flies. And I don't want to sell this TV as like the perfect solution for you, because it's not. It's great until it's not, and I want you to be aware of the problems. And the first one is really connectivity. So if you have something that is not VGA or HDMI, you're gonna have to convert the signal, okay? And for that, I used, for my PS2, for example, which is interlaced, I used my GBSC in passive mode. So basically, it was just converting analog component to analog VGA. And I'd love to show you how that works, but it died. It just doesn't turn on anymore. I'm ordering a new one now. Also, you don't need a GBSC for this, okay? There are passive adapters from component to VGA. Just get one of those. Before you buy the TV or cables or anything, just read online. Be careful. Try to find something that's going to work. The second fault that I want to talk about, which can be major or nothing for you, is ghosting. It's an OLED panel. It's an LG Philips panel from 2006. It's gonna have some ghosting. It's not motion sickness tier ghosting. But yeah, be aware, because if you're playing stuff like fighting games competitively, you want a CRT, probably. You shouldn't get this. And then, Finally, these are old TVs, so be prepared for the worst. They might just die. They might have a failing power supply in like 2 months after you buy them. You're buying something that is at least 20 years old. So I guess my closing message is that if you find one of these for cheap in your area and you're willing to experiment, and again, there's a great article by Gingerbread Man and some very cool pictures on his Instagram of like him pushing this TV to its absolute limits, you should maybe give it a go. But if someone linked this to you to prove that this TV is worth like a lot, it's not. It's very cool, it's very useful if you know how to use it, but if you have to spend more than 20 bucks on this, just buy a CRT. Maybe those two guys are selling.